Today is the 3-round liner with the Ambition Ninja. Y'all know this is my dedicated liner. For those that don't know, dedicated liner machine. So you about to take a tag at this little tangerine here. And just like on human skin, this is my first time doing the orange. So for my first time on somebody's skin, I always start at a slow speed. So on this tangerine, this orange, I'm gonna start at 5.5 volts just to get a feel for it and see if we could go up or down from there. Let's get started. Lightly tapping it. Trying to get a feel. Cause I don't know what this is like yet, so I'm getting a feel for it. All right, y'all, we got a feel for our first line. Let's go back at it. Lightly tapping it. I see the ink is going in there pretty easy. And I'm basically floating the needle and resting my pinky onto the orange, and then I'm kind of hovering above it, barely tapping it with the tip of the needles. And that's one thing that I recommend on real skin as well. Tap it. You could just dab it, because when wiping on real skin, it's definitely like make the skin get sore. You don't want it to be raw, and it definitely hurts your clients. All right, I'm using some A&D ointment on here. Make sure it flow good across the orange. Lightly tap it. It's gonna be a thicker part of the lettering, so we gotta sculpt this up like a line on side of a line, basically, to make this line. All right, got that little bold line. Let's bring this line down the middle. We're gonna keep this one a little thin. I'm gonna just do me a little swiggle right across the middle. That's just personal preference. You don't have to do that. But I'm gonna be showing y'all how to actually draw up letters. So just take a look at this just so you know how to hit your line work. All right, what I'm about to add on the back, there's gonna be a little extra filigree. You all don't really have to worry about this. Practice them letters that I'm gonna put out first. Once you practice the letters, then you'll learn how to do your extra filigree. All this right here is just extra. Main thing you wanna learn is actually to do the simple letters. When you got that down, that's when you can kind of play around, trying new things. And I'm just showing y'all at this point that you could pretty much practice tattooing on anything. I would say this is more realistic than fake skin, because you're not trying to puncture the orange. You're trying to actually just tattoo on its peeling. So if you actually see leaking out or juice coming out, that's a sign showing you that, yeah, you went too deep. You can look at it like basically your client bleeding. So you don't want to puncture the orange, so you definitely got to be way more cautious on this orange. All right, we got some extras right there. Let's bring it down to the aura. And we're gonna kind of continue and repeat. Continue and repeat. And it's crazy, the thing that I'm tattooing the peeling, I can actually smell the orange. I guess, you know, like when peeling the orange, all them little dusty little things coming popping up. Don't know what it's called, but yeah, I kind of got an idea. And don't forget, certain areas is a lot thicker. So on this part of the aura, I'm definitely gonna make it a little bit more bolder. It's a thick and thin thing with cursive lettering. That's something you can practice. Also, once you get the basic shapes, I didn't really have to practice the thick and thin. It kind of just flowed naturally. On to our U. Same thing. This part of the U gonna be a little bit bolder. So we start out making that initial line first. And then you go back on side of that line to actually bolden it up. In mind, this is a 3-round line. I recommend most people start out with a 7-round liner. 7-round liner way easier to work with, but you still could get some thin lines. Because the smaller you go, like if you go to 1-round line, it's way easier to get a blowout. The smaller you go, I say it's more tougher to work with. So I decided to go with this 3-round liner because I really like my lines super short. And you definitely have a lot more of that control with that 3-round liner, especially at this size lettering. All right, y'all, we're gonna go straight through, back on the U. I always make sure this part is facing up. That helps the needle, the ink flows down the needle. Don't never have it upside down, have it facing up. Go over this U. Now remember, I'm at 5.5 volts. Like I said, it's fresh skin for me. Just like when you get on fresh skin, you're gonna start slower than your normal speed. Just to get an idea what that skin can handle. And then you adjust from there. But what I'm noticing that The ink is going in smooth on this orange. So definitely I would never run this at a super fast speed because it definitely will kind of try to puncture the skin. It'll try to push straight through this orange. So just keep on moving slow. Like I said, it's not a race. Be patient, be patient. And you notice how I'm sculpting up on these edges. Certain spots is thick, certain parts is thin. I'm going to actually cut in with that thin part of that U. That just adds a little something to it with the design process of lettering. And this is basically called sculpting your letters. That's why it's bold, some of it thin, bold, thin, bold, thin. And let's dab that down just to see how we looking right there. And let's continue on with that U. Gotta dip and get some more of my ink. We're gonna curve this back to that U. And if you can't make a line, like see how I'm stretching this, you don't have to hit that whole line in one. In the beginning, I will basically just curve this, stop right there, give me a breather, and come back the opposite direction. So whichever way is comfortable for you, you don't want to stretch it and pull yourself outside of your comfort zone, especially while you're learning. I tell people, like, if you already experienced, then yeah, you want to pull yourself outside the comfort zone because you don't want to kind of get trapped in one space, I'll say. So let's move on to this part of the U. And I'm not going to close this in, I'm going to leave it open. So I made that little thickness right there. Boom. But I'm not going to close that in. So now we're about to hit the U. And that's why I say practice your lines as well, or your words. Because this, I just basically drew it on with a pen. I used some markers. Then I drew it on. The reason why I say learn how to draw them, because if you wipe something away, like back here, I'm wiping it away. I could either draw it on, or since by me having experience, I could just tattoo it back on because I could still kind of see it. But in the beginning, I know it's easy to lose your stencil and you don't know what direction you should go. So definitely just continue to take it easy. And also, that's another tip. I'm right-handed, so I'm starting on my right-hand side and I'm moving over. Because in the beginning, I started from my left-hand side, and as you go, it will continue to wipe it straight away. So you don't want to do that. So let's continue to tat this. Like I said, 3-round liner is very sharp, so you want to watch it. That's why I'm floating this on needle on top of this orange. I'm gonna go dip for some more ink. Put some Lubriderm on the orange. Just get in the habit of doing this to real skin. So doing it on the orange, you'll be in the habit. So once you do get to real skin, let's thinning this line out as we swipe up. So I say down is thick, up is thin. That's how you got kind of remember what parts of your lettering should be bold, what should be thin. As you go up, it's thin. As you come down, they're bold. So keep that in mind. Like right in this area, you see that's thin. But I'm gonna add a little thickness right in that curve as we come down. Add a little thickness in there. And the reason why I would say tattoo like an orange or a fruit, because noticing with this orange, this is my first time tattooing it, but I'm definitely way more caution on this orange than I am on fake skin. Fake skin, the ink takes forever to kind of go in. You gotta press on the skin. So I would say this orange is definitely more close to real skin. So y'all definitely get y'all some oranges practice on. It's crazy. I wish I would have practiced on the orange when I first started out. But I didn't. I started out with like pig feet, stuff like that. But this orange is definitely making me be cautious. I don't know if it's just because it's small and I'm doing it with a 3-round liner or what. But this is definitely more closer to real skin. The ink going in fast, just how we're going on real skin. And if you go too deep, you will easily cut the orange. And that's one thing you don't want to do on real skin either. You don't want to cut it. So while tattooing this, you don't want it to look like it's cutting the orange. You want it to look like it's just sitting right on top of that peeling. So my goal with this is when I open this up, I don't want to see this ink nowhere on the inside of the orange, or nowhere on the orange or in the inside of the peeling. I'm trying to do it light enough just to where it's on the outside. So when I open this up, well, I don't know how I really will open it up without peeling the name off, huh? But I'll check it out. We're gonna see about that, y'all. Go ahead with this extra little swirl of filigree in the back. See how I'm resting my hand up on the orange? The same thing how you would do on skin. You rest your hand up on the skin. Kind of float your needle to kind of gradually get them clean lines. And it's just extra filigree, like I said in the beginning. Y'all don't have to worry about this extra little filigree. Focus on your words. Focus on that, you know, practicing getting clean lines. Then once you get comfortable, then you could go ahead and add your extra little filigree. And that's like simple steps, that's it. Focus on one thing at a time. Because I noticed in the beginning for me, I try to focus on both of them. That's probably why my growth was a lot more slower, because I focused on shade and lining. I started in the house, so I was trying to do all kind of stuff. Because people was asking for it, so of course I was trying to learn how to do it. All right, y'all, so we got most of the yours. Most of the yours is done. Somebody hit this little swirl on the top. That's the only thing left on this side of the orange. Slow and steady win the race. Keep that in mind, slow and steady. Cause that's one thing I know in the beginning, I was just outlining with like a 7-round line, okay, and like, yeah, that look good. But now as I done got better with lining and lettering, I'm like, no, I can't just outline. I gotta go back with something even smaller to clean it up. Because I see every little flaw now. So I'm trying to get it even better than it was before. And as a like tattoo artist or artist in general, that's how I think it should be. You know, you're trying to do better than the last time, And that way, you will eventually grow. As long as you keep on growing and trying to progress, doing better than the last time, your growth will never stop. But if you stop trying, you get stagnant and boom, you're gonna be stuck where you at the rest of your life if you stop trying. And it's also a tip for y'all to know. I swerve that O back. Sometimes I decide to bring the Y back, but with the O, I'm not going to swing it back. So if it was something else, I would have swung it back. Like the YU, I would have swung it back. Just like I did that O. Don't forget, get in the habit of using that ointment, rubbing it on the skin. Now we about to start on this E, thin line coming down. And don't be afraid, y'all, because I definitely be having to do it. Hold your breath, do whatever you got to do to get some clean lines. I know when I'm doing a 1-round liner on real skin, I be having to hold my breath because people got to breathe. Just from them breathing, the skin is moving. So with a 1-round liner, is real, like no room for error. No room at all. It's real thin lines, no bolding it up. It's just straight strip, a straight line, whatever you're doing, you know, straight to the destination. Ain't no wiggle room around it. So definitely hold your breath, do whatever you got to do to keep your lines clean as possible. And for those out there that's practicing on like your depth of the needle, get your orange. Matter of fact, go buy you a pack of oranges. Cause this is my first time tattooing the orange, and I know this is good practice for to know how deep to go with the needle. If I was to go too deep with this, I'm going to have this orange pouring out buku juice. And that's one thing you don't want to do. So look at it like a little baby test before fake skin, because fake skin ain't going to show you when you're going too deep unless you go super hard and really rip the fake skin. But this is not too much error you have, too much wiggle room. You go a little too deep, I feel this orange gonna bust open. So keep running through you some oranges, you know. If you don't, I think oranges is cheaper than fake skin. So if you can't afford no fake skin, you get you some oranges. It definitely helps out, especially if you're trying to learn how deep to go with this needle. This is way more smoother than real skin. Real skin, the lines do not go in this easy. I have to kind of keep going over it and pushing it in. So I can't wait to try my shading on this orange just to see how smooth it is, if it works better than fake skin as well. All right, back to the O. We try to go for the like a very similar O. You see my O a little bit different, but I'm about to curve it up to give me a small loop in that middle. I'm gonna follow that loop. Come down thin, cut it off early, because I want that O to look very similar to the other one. Now mind you, it ain't gonna always be perfect, but that is the goal, trying to get it as perfect as possible. See, I made that loop a lot more thin. And by me making that thin, I'm just gonna bring my other side of my O up a little bit more. Seem like that's the whole goal with lettering. Trying to give it that nice, even, consistent flow, so where no letter don't look off. Even if it's not exactly as the other letter, As long as it's flowing the same direction, they got the same angles, you should be good. And that's what I focus on, because I'm not a like very symmetrical type person, so I definitely just focus on getting that flow of my words to flow together. As long as they flowing, you're not gonna see nothing off about it. But if your letters is not flowing, that will easily stand out and you will notice that. So that's why I say practice different shapes, different circles, S shape, tracing, all that. But you move a little faster, so your hand and your wrist speed kind of, you know, it give you that muscle memory. Moving slow, it'll be tougher for that muscle memory, even though you got to move slow when you actually line it. But when you draw it on, move a little bit faster so your letters could give that flow. Let's go ahead and bolden our V up on this side a little bit more before we turn into that thin. Because as we hit that loop on that V, it's definitely gonna get a lot thinner. Like I say, take a break if you need to. Stop and pick back up. And I don't know if you all know, it's like an airplane. Y'all ever heard that? It's like an airplane on the strip. You slowly come down and start moving. Slowly come down and start moving. As you lift up, you slowly lifting up. You slowly lifting up. Because if you don't, you're definitely gonna leave a blob, and you don't want no blobs in your lines. Well, people could tell where you started at, and they could tell where you stopped at. You don't want that. All right, y'all. So we got most of it down, but look at the side. It's starting to wipe away. That's why I say it's good to practice your letters. But you can easily come back and draw this on. This pen look like it's having a hard time, maybe because I got ointment on it. But really, I don't need to draw it back on, because I kind of already know what how my L's go, stuff like that. But for you starting out, you definitely want to try to draw that back on. You don't want to just leave it as is. So even if it's just a little map out like that, boom, got that. Supposed to serve right there, and it's gonna curve right there. At least you can see what you're following. Because if you just try to trust your instincts, you're gonna wind up messing it up, especially in the beginning. So don't just try to trust your instincts. And I'm telling y'all this because it was once me, you know, trusting my instincts. Like, oh yeah, man, I got it. I could just tattoo it on. I could see it. Nope. I thought I could see it, but then I was like, dang, that's not how that L was. It still looked like an L, mind you. It looked like an L or whatever letter I did at the time, but it wasn't as clean as I drew it on. So always draw it back on. Trust the stencil. Never try to go off your own interpretation of what was there. Just like a portrait, you never go off an interpretation of what you think it looked like or what it is. Nope, go off exactly that object and trace it as is. All right, hit this little curve. You're gonna swing this one down. Still wrap around that side. You see how that thickness still around that side because it cuts across the top of that L. And my L coming down gonna be a little bold. So let's start cutting that down. And that's another way you can tattoo instead of sculpting your lines. If you know the thickness you're going for, if you got your stencil already up to the thickness, outline the outside of that part, come back on the outside of this part, outline it, and then you can come back in and slowly shade it in. Slowly shade it in. And that's another thing that you'll find out going through this tattoo journey is going with your thinner line first, like how I just outlined that and then shaded it in, is way easier when trying to match up the width of your letters. The thickness is way easier to kind of outline it first and then go in versus outlining it with a 7 and then coming back with the 3 to tighten it up. Just go ahead in with the 3, come back, tighten it up with the 7 round liner, or shade it in with the 7 round liner. That's one thing I always say, you know, everything that I'm showing, it took me multiple tries and multiple ways to do it. It's a lot of ways you could do something. There's not only one way, but it's all about finding what way works for you. If you don't know what works for you, you gotta keep experimenting, keep trying things out. But guess what? If you don't experiment, you will never find out. That means you will just be stuck in a box and you're only doing what you know. So try new things. Always encourage people to try new things, because you never know, you might find a better way, or you might find out another way that just don't work for you. And that's one thing I always say as well. When you finish, always look back over your lines. Take your phone, take a picture. Whatever it is, you're gonna find something that you're missing. Whether if it's a line that's too thin or too thick, you're gonna find something to touch up. And that's how you're not getting it perfect, but it just makes progress, because I don't believe nothing is really perfect. You gotta keep on putting that effort in, keep on putting that effort. And you can only hit the skin so many times. You don't want to keep hitting the skin. Because if you keep hitting the skin, you're gonna find out that it will scar. And nothing you could do about scarred skin. Once you scar some skin, that's a wrap. So now I'm gonna add these little swirls, y'all. Like I said, y'all worry about the filigree after. Y'all first focus on y'all lines. But I said I'm just gonna add it just to kind of balance it up with that. Add me some extra little flow to it. And like I said, by me being used to it, I could go ahead and tattoo this part on without having to draw it on. But I always say follow a stencil. Especially in the beginning, always follow the stencil. Especially if you're still trying to get your lines clean, things like that, follow the stencil. And that's another important part about lettering. Hand speed and machine speed. By me moving my machine at 5.4, it went down. It always bounced around, but 5.4, you gotta keep that nice consistent hand speed. We're gonna swing this line back. Because if your machine too slow and your hand too fast, the line not gonna be there. And I'm about to show y'all an example of that. See, the line is there. I'm about to show y'all an example. If my hand was moving too fast, what will really happen? So boom. So that line is there, but you see how much thinner it is? It's not consistent. That just show you I gotta go over that line again because I was moving too fast and I skipped some spots. And that's just how it will be on real skin. If you're moving too fast and your machine going slow, it's not gonna get ejected into the skin. It's definitely gonna miss a lot of it. That's why a lot of tattoos will fade, because it's not in that epidermis layer of the skin. And if it's not deep enough in the skin, it will fall out during the healing process. But it's always better. I always tell people it's always better to not go deep enough than to go too deep. But once you go too deep, like I was saying, you can't go back. Once it's scarred, it's scarred. No fixing it. You could cover up a scar, but guess what? That scar still gonna show through. It's lifted above the skin. Okay, so we see one more thing. Just like on this part of this L, it's not thick enough. So we can't turn that person's arm like that. So the thing that good to practice is turning your hand. You can't turn every position on somebody's body a certain direction how you want it. So it's best to practice getting that right angle on your machine to where you can feel comfortable pulling a clean line. Same thing, practicing on paper. Practice these directions, these angles to get clean lines, because you can't just turn somebody on whichever way you want them. All right, y'all, so we had some technical difficulties. I thought the thing was recording, but it wasn't. But I decided let's go ahead and open up this little cutie, little orange for y'all. So let's speed it up. So yeah, y'all, trying to figure out how to do it, but I definitely had to take my time and try to peel this thing perfect. Had to cut straight down the back of it, and then trying to work my ways to the sides to try to push it out. All right, y'all, finally, here we go. Finally got it out of there. First thing I did was looked around the orange. As you see, no ink in the orange, no ink in the orange. Next thing you know, we gotta go check that peeling. That's one of the reasons right there why I say using the orange is good practice, because you don't have too much room for it to go deep into the orange. As you see in the peeling, no ink in the peeling as well. So that's one thing you want to try out. I'll challenge you all to do this. Tattoo on the orange. After that, open it up, check your own rhyme, your peeling. Make sure you have no ink in there. You can't eat no oranges. I don't care how many oranges you go through. Can't eat no oranges until you don't get no ink in the orange or the peeling. All right, y'all. I want y'all to keep on trying, keep on trying. I put in this work. Time for me to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Let me go ahead and eat this orange, since, of course, I ain't get no ink in there. So I want y'all to do the same. You ain't always got to eat the orange, but if you see a little ink, you better not eat that orange at all. Y'all keep on trying, keep on practicing, practice, practice. Hope y'all learn from this video, and y'all have a great day. See y'all in the next video.